Hey everybody, I'm filming this, recording this, on the same day that I did the top 10 title tracks in classic rock and heavy metal. And this idea, I've done one of these before. I think I directly stole the idea for Ozzy um, from Sea of Tranquility. The favorite, least favorite, and then a wild card. So what I'm going to do is we're talking about Judas Priest here today, one of my favorite bands, which is odd because not not that I would like their music, but because so many of their albums and I have every one, but I don't know some that well because I never connected with them, and others they're like the soundtrack to my life, and so and maybe you've got that with some bands that you enjoy too. I've seen them 5 times, six. I don't know. I've seen them a few times, both with the KK Downing and Glenn Tipton lineup, and then twice with the newer lineup where Richie Faulkner handles most of the lead guitar duties, and producer extraordinaire Andy Sneap is the other guitar player, and he plays more rhythm, but he plays some killer leads too live. So anyway, if you haven't seen a show that does this sort of thing, if you haven't watched my Ozzy one before, I'm going to start with my two favorite Judas Priest records, and then I'm going to talk about my two least favorites, and then a wild card. Now, a wild card could be a hits collection, a live album, an album that maybe you're not expecting. It could be Priest related. So any of those kind of albums are acceptable for a wild card selection. So I'm going to just jump right into it after I have a sip of my coffee here, even though it's pushing 7 o'clock at night while I'm recording this. My second favorite Priest album, and this may surprise some people because it's so new, is Invincible Shield that just came out in 2024. So this album is only about a year old. I picked this up the day it came out, and oh my word. When I sat down and listened to it, I didn't get to it for a couple of days. I made sure to have time to absorb it, and I was stunned, completely stunned at the breadth of material here, the diversity of it, the intensity of it, how ridiculously good it is. Um, so it's listed as having Richie Faulkner and Glenn Tipton on guitars. Now, of course, for those of you not in the know, Tipton has Parkinson's, has had for quite some time, which is why he stepped back from touring. So how much of this is Tipton on guitar and how much of this is Richie Faulkner, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. This Invincible Shield from 2024 by Judas Priest. it, when I first heard the advanced single of Panic Attack, I wasn't sure what to make of it because it had some synths. Um, it, it, it's a cross between the mid '80s Priest and the post comeback Priest. When Halford rejoined the band in 2004, and then they released Angel of Retribution in '05, which is also a great record. Uh, but once Richie Faulkner took over from Ken Downing after he left the band, they made uh, a couple of really great albums. The second one, Firepower, is just a fantastic killer album, and it garnered rave reviews. And I thought, okay, uh, if they end there, then okay, you know, it's a great record. But they decided to top themselves with Invincible Shield. Um, the Serpent and the King, Judas Priest. I say that all the time as an exclamation of surprise. My goodness. And I heard that there were quite a few takes to nail it, but Halford in his 70s is singing as good as he ever has here. The title track is fantastic. Gates of Hell I really like. Crown of Horns, very melodic, moody. As God is My Witness, just fantastic. I'm not going to go through and list all the songs, but do yourself a favor. Grab this. And it wasn't cheap. New vinyl is not cheap like it used to be. And unfortunately, record companies are really milking we fans for legacy artists. I don't care. Don't just stream this. If you're not going to get the vinyl record, get the CD, get a physical copy, play it on a stereo like it's meant to be. I spun this twice in a row the first time I heard it, and every time I hear this, there's more and more depth to it. So, my number 2 favorite Priest record, Invincible Shield. And, sorry, I know somebody had mentioned taking the cellophane off. The cellophane's been on since I got the record. Number 1 has to be Painkiller for me. It's everything great about heavy metal. It's pure molten lava, just unleashed in the form of sound. From the title track, the opening title track, Painkiller, with the double kick drum and the squealing guitars and Halford's screams, they're in tune. Keep in mind, it's not like Halford was singing lousy. It's incredible. It's just a phenomenal song. And then Hell Patrol. I love All Guns Blazing. That one opens with even more screaming. Leather Rebel, Metal Meltdown is just crushing, brutal. Nightcrawler, Between the Hammer and the Anvil. There's not a ballad on here, which I really like, because this album doesn't need it. But Touch of Evil is the closest that you come to a sort of ballad, even though it's really not. It's very melodic, very moving. It showcases Halford's dynamic range. It showcases the band's ability to play well. And then the instrumental battle hymn leading into the closing song of One Shot at Glory. This is a 10 out of 10 record. This one might be like 9.5, Invincible Shield. Might be 10, but it's a solid 9 or 9.5. This for me is Judas Priest at its finest. So, there are my top 2. Now we go to my bottom 2, and they're probably predictable because most Priest fans don't enjoy these 2 records. And, I don't even know which one I dislike more because I genuinely don't like these albums. And I hate to crap on people's work. I like songs off these albums. But these albums, their heart was in the right place with Nostradamus. Okay? It's a concept record. Judas Priest is gargantuan. They're over the top. They're showmen. They're everything about big, loud songs, great storytelling. Halford is one of the master lyricists of our time and of that genre. This is 80-some minutes that I just cannot get through. And I remember hearing the song Nostradamus, which is a pretty killer track, actually. And then the other advanced single was Prophecy. There are just a ton of little interludes here, both instrumental and just... This could have been a single album, and it would have been great. You think about all the grandeur of Judas Priest, and you think, if any heavy metal band is going to do a concept album about the life and times of one of the most infamous and notorious prophets the world has ever seen, it's the Priest. And if the Priest can't pull it off, nobody can. And I hate talking bad about Judas Priest, but that's kind of how these... that's how these go sometimes. So there's that from 2008. There was talk of uh, staging entire productions of the entire show. Thank goodness. You know what they did instead? They went and played some festival dates, and then they put together a festival of their own called the Metal Masters Tour. I think it was only 18 shows throughout July and August of 2008. My friend Matt and I had the absolute privilege of seeing them at Pine Knob over in Clarkston, Michigan, a bit north of Detroit. And we had pavilion seats, and back then they were only $65. And I heard there was a fifth band, but we only saw four. We saw Testament, Motorhead, Heaven and Hell, which of course was Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio, and Judas Priest were the headliners. And they opened with Dawn of Creation / Prophecy, and that was the only song they played in the entire hour and a half, hour 45-minute set from the new album, because I think there were deluxe editions. I think there was a vinyl pressing even back then in '08. There was a huge marketing campaign, and I bought it the day it came out, and I had my Discman, and I went to Panera Bread. I had gone back to college at the time, so I was doing summer work, and I got through it once. I've never been able to again, and I'm sorry, guys. And then musically, on completely the opposite end of the spectrum, Demolition does not even sound like a Judas Priest album. It sounds maybe like a Tipton solo record. Glenn, I believe, did most of the writing on this. This is the second and final studio record with Tim Ripper Owens on vocals. This is from 2002, 1 or 2? 1. That's it, because there was a live album, live in London, that followed this, which was decent. And as so many people have pointed out over the years, this is really no fault of Tim Owens. He didn't write any of the music. He didn't write any of the lyrics. It was all done by Tipton, Downing, a few others. This sounds so much like they were trying to fit in with the times. '01 was a weird time for classic metal. There was still the leftovers of the new metal movement. There was industrial going on. There are a couple of good songs. Machine Man is pretty good. Hell is Home is pretty good. What the heck else is it? Hell is Home, not bad. But overall, this was a big misfire, a huge missed opportunity. Because while they were doing this, Halford put out the Halford Band Resurrection album, which was the best Priest album the Priest never made. And then the follow-up, which was different, but it was equally as good. Priest didn't come even close to matching what Rob Halford and his band were doing at the time. So if you want early 2000s Priest, go find the Halford Band, actually. And I hate to say that. And Owens would leave, Halford would come back. The tour was not very successful. This album tanked. And it's too bad because, again, there was a lot of potential. The previous studio record from '97, Jugulator, was really quite a solid album. It might not have been on par with some of the classics, but it was a respectable record. And Tim Owens' range, yes, he sings different than Halford. He did the screams. He had again, it's a different sound, but it was similar. He was brought in from a tribute band. He did a marvelous job with what he was given, which leads me to my wild card, which is the '98 Meltdown, '98 Live Meltdown. And this was taken during that tour. Must have gotten a little moisture in here at one point because these pages they're reminiscent of it. Some cool artwork. I don't think this has never come out officially on vinyl. But you had the core members. You had Ken Downing, Glenn Tipton, Scott Travis on drums, Ian Hill on bass, Tim Owens. And I mean, he looked ferocious. And the set list on here. What's great is this was not one of those where the albums or where the songs stop in between. They were taken from a bunch of different shows, but it blends seamlessly as a live album should. Even though you can hear the different acoustics of some of the different theaters and sheds that they were playing. Even the CDs look pretty cool. So, there, it was upside down in the case. The artwork was cool for this. It was on CMC International, which I don't think exists anymore. He does a fantastic job on Metal Gods, opening with Electric Eye. They touch on several songs from the Jugulator record, Bloodstained, Burn in Hell, which is really a Judas Priest classic. And Halford's never going to sing Ripper's stuff, which is a shame because Halford could do justice to Burn in Hell. Bullet Train is on here, Death Row is on here, Abductors. So really a lot of great tunes from Jugulator, along with the Ripper. Beyond the Realms of Death is amazing on here. Metal Meltdown, Nightcrawler, Killers. He does fantastic justice to Diamonds and Rust and Victim of Changes. Green Manalishi's on here. Painkillers, just ferocious. So this is my wild card. It's neither at the top nor the bottom of the list, I think, of anybody's Judas Priest ranking. It might be for some folks, but for me, if you really want the essence of what Tim Ripper Owens could do, and you don't want to buy Jugulator, and I hate to say it, I would not recommend buying Demolition. I have it because I'm an obnoxious completist, and I admit that. The curse of the collector is real, and you guys out there know that. So skip over Demolition. The Live in London live album isn't bad, but it's not as good as this. This is just a killer live album of Judas Priest heavy metal, and Owens did the best job that anybody could taking Halford's place on stage. So, yeah, I remember getting this when it came out, I think October 99, 98 maybe. Sorry, I said 99, but it's 98 Live Meltdown. It was recorded from 97 to 98. Came out late in the year. And there was another one. I remember I had my Discman and I played it and I was like, whoa, this is just phenomenal. And so, yeah, really highly recommend checking this one out. I don't know if it's still in print. You might have to find used copies of it, but do yourself a favor and pick it up. So there you go. There's my favorite, least favorite, and wild card albums from some of the godfathers of heavy metal, the metal gods themselves, Judas Priest. So much good material in their catalog. Like I say, a lot of their albums, I don't rank them either high or low because I just, this is my Judas Priest. The second half of their career is really where I picked up on them. And so that's just where my heart is as far as listening to that's what I spin more often. Though I have them all, every album has high points on it. Even these two stinkers have some high points. So thank you for your kind attention. Please let me know in the comments what your top two, bottom two, and wild card are for Judas Priest. Please be respectful in the comments. I look forward to chatting with you. Cheers, everybody.